Have you ever stopped to think about the invisible rules that are running in the background of your life? I mean, from the moment you're born, the law is right there, giving you a legal identity. And as you go through life, it's shaping your relationships, your rights, and even your family. Today, we are diving deep into the Civil Code of the Philippines to really get a handle on the rules that define our most personal connections. So let's get right into it. Every single day, you're making choices about your life, right? About your partners, your property. But here's the thing we don't always realize. There's this whole legal framework that's already there, influencing everything from the moment you say "I do" to figuring out who gets the condo. So what exactly are these rules?
All right, here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start at the very beginning, how a rule actually becomes a law. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the marriage contract. After that, we'll tackle the tough stuff, how a marriage can end. Then it's on to money and property. And finally, we'll look at the laws that cover parents and their kids.
Okay, first things first. Before we can even talk about the rules of relationships, we have to understand how a rule becomes a law. I mean, it makes sense, right? If you don't know a law exists, how on earth can you be expected to follow it? The Civil Code is actually super clear on this. It all boils down to this simple but incredibly powerful rule from Article 2, the 15-day waiting period. You see, a law can't be a secret. It has to be published in full, where everyone can see it. And only after that complete publication does a 15-day countdown begin. It's only after those 15 days are up that the law is officially binding. You just can't be held responsible for a rule you had no chance of knowing about. And this quote just nails the whole reason why. The Supreme Court put it perfectly. Punishing someone for breaking a law they couldn't possibly have known about, that's the height of injustice. This whole idea of public notice, it's really the foundation of fairness in our entire legal system. So, with that foundation laid, let's talk about the marriage contract. And let's be real, for a lot of us, this is the single most important personal contract we'll ever sign. It's way more than just a romantic promise, it's a legal institution, and it has some very, very specific requirements. Okay, I love how this slide breaks it down. Think of getting married like baking a cake. The essential requisites, that's legal capacity, which means you're old enough and allowed to marry, plus genuine consent, those are your main ingredients, like flour and eggs. If you're missing one of those, you don't have a cake. The marriage is void. It's like it never even happened. Then you have the formal requisites. These are the baking instructions. You need someone with authority to marry you, a marriage license, and, an actual ceremony. Miss one of these, and the marriage is also void. But there's a little exception. If you honestly, in good faith, believed the person marrying you had the authority, the law will actually protect your marriage. And that brings us to what is, without a doubt, one of the most complicated parts of family law here in the Philippines. What happens when a marriage ends? It's definitely not as simple as just deciding to part ways. The law has very specific and often pretty tough paths to follow. So, these two questions right here, they're everything. The legal option you go for completely depends on the answers. Was there something fundamentally wrong with the marriage from the get-go? Or did something happen after the wedding that just makes it impossible to continue? Let's unpack the difference. All right, let's make this simple. A void marriage is one that was, legally speaking, never real. It was invalid from the moment they said "I do." Think of things like marrying someone who's already married, or incest, or a marriage that was missing one of those core ingredients we just talked about. A voidable marriage is totally different. It's considered perfectly valid until a court steps in and annuls it. This is for cases where consent was messed up, like if someone was forced or tricked or wasn't mentally sound. The big catch here is you only have a certain amount of time to challenge it. And then there's this third option, legal separation. And this is a really important one to understand. In this case, a court says, okay, you two can live apart, you can divide up your property, but, and this is a huge but, the marriage bond itself is not broken. You're still legally married. That means neither of you can remarry. It's a separation of your lives and your finances, but not of the marriage itself. Now we get to the one everyone talks about, and one of the most misunderstood grounds for voiding a marriage, psychological incapacity. This is not about just being unhappy or having a difficult personality. We're talking about a real, genuine psychological condition that makes a person completely unable to handle the basic duties of being married. And here's the detail that's so crucial. This condition had to have existed when they got married, even if nobody realized it until much, much later. The Supreme Court has been very clear on this. They set up 3 really strict requirements. First, gravity. This has to be a serious disorder, not just a weird quirk. Second, juridical antecedents, which is just a fancy way of saying it had to be there at or before the wedding.
And third, incurability. It has to be shown clinically that it's permanent or can't be cured. Hitting all three of these is an incredibly high bar to clear. And this quote from the court just drives that point home. The whole idea is to use this only for the most serious cases of personality disorders. It really shows that the law's goal is to protect the institution of marriage, not make it easy to dissolve. All right, let's shift gears. After the I do's comes a very practical question. Who owns what? Let's talk about money and property. Because when you get married in the Philippines and you don't sign a prenup, the law just automatically picks a financial system for you. So which system you fall under all depends on your wedding date. If you got married on or after August 3rd, 1988, you're under the absolute community of property. The easiest way to think about this is what's yours is mine and what's mine is yours. It's a total merger. Pretty much everything you own before and everything you get during the marriage is co-owned. Now, for marriages before that date, the default was the conjugal partnership of gains. In that system, what you brought into the marriage stays yours. Only the stuff you earn and acquire together during the marriage goes into a shared pot.
You know, a marriage isn't always just about two people. So let's look at the last piece of our legal puzzle today, the relationship between parents and their children. When parents go their separate ways, the law has some really clear rules, and they always put the child's best interest first. So what is with this number 7? Why is this one digit so incredibly important in family law? Well, it represents something called the tender age presumption. The law is mandatory on this. A child under the age of 7 cannot be separated from their mother. It's a rule, not a suggestion. The only way around it is if a court finds what it calls compelling reasons. And we're talking proven neglect, abuse, things that would make staying with the mother actively harmful to the child. It is a powerful legal protection for the youngest kids. Wow, okay, we've gone through a lot, from how a law is even born to the really deep complexities of marriage, money, and being a parent. So what's the big takeaway here? At the end of the day, the law gives us a structure, a kind of default setting for the most important parts of our lives. And yeah, it can seem really rigid, but its purpose isn't to tie us down. It's actually the opposite. Understanding this legal framework is empowering. It gives you the clarity to make smart choices, to protect yourself and the people you love, and to navigate the messy, complicated, beautiful journey of life and family with real intention. The Law of You isn't just a rulebook, it's a map for your most personal relationships.